Then on your servers, you said that you also have RAID 1 implemented.
Yeah.
From what the little I know about computers, I know that if RAID 1 is
Maybe that's been our problem.
RAID 1 might compromise the performance of your access.
RAID 1 does slow down the access and write of the file server, but it was
We would have rather used RAID 5, but RAID 1 was a requirement.
yeah.
Why do you think they made a requirement for RAID 1 versus you didn't use the RAID 5?
They didn't care about performance, I guess.
Do you get
Because we've got a really good
what can
machine.
you get with RAID 1 that you cannot do with RAID 5? What will the mirror
It's hot
include?
swap
in it?
warning. First drive fails, you're ready to go.
Yeah, but
You can also break the mirror and pull one drive out, put it in another machine, and duplicate it.
what is included in a RAID 1 fault tolerance that is not included in a RAID 5 fault tolerance? It's not included in a RAID 0 non-fault tolerance. Can you do your system and boot partition inside of RAID 1? Can you do a system boot partition inside of RAID 5?
It's interesting.
I don't think we ever considered that factor.
So if your RAID 5 goes down, you can't include a system boot partition, it won't let you. So RAID 1 is the only one that's going to do that. That's why you're able to, if one drive fails and you need to reboot, you can still reboot using what file to repoint to the other drive.
And that's why we use RAID 1.
Yes. So what file do you use to manipulate to tell it, hey, you're no longer pointing to this particular physical drive, you need to point to this other physical drive.
You simply file.
What file would you
Boot file.
Yeah. The
Like
what?
the boot.ini.
Boot.ini file, yes.
Yeah.
That's because it has the system and boot partition information in there. RAID 5, you wouldn't be able to do that. All right,
That's what we were thinking.
trying to get that straightened out.
Now, I don't have any more questions on the servers. Now, on the printers and your workstations, and then, on the switches that you guys are using.
We want our money back for Tie Friday.
On the switches that you guys
No,
are
you
using,
gotta
are they
watch-
any particular
They're not really.
type of switches that you're using? Are they just,
The one that was given to us. What was that? Was it a neck gear?
Yeah, like a Netgear little switch thing.
Something from the cheapo depot?
okay,
Are you trying to find out if they're layer 3?
right?
They were layer 2 switches.
No, layer 2 switches.
Okay.
They won't let us play with layer.
On the workstations then, on the workstations, you mentioned that you also use shadow copies, and every workstation has to have some sort of an agent or something installed.
Yeah, it was. What was it? Previous versions client.
Do you have that?
software.
Do you have that deployed to every workstation automatically, or how do you feel about having a client or a user recover their own mistakes?
How do they go about it?
You know, how do you deploy the previous version?
I guess you could just push it onto the network.
Aren't you doing an unattended install? Couldn't you go and add that in as part of your unattended install?
Yeah, there you go. Your policy, right?
But then even with battery box, any new machines, you can go and just add that as an extra functionality that runs after things get installed.
Yeah, at the end, you can have different runs. We're just setting up the answer file.
Okay.
Last question about printers. How do you mentioned that people on first floor would only have access or visible to 2 printers. And then of course everybody would have only 2 printers available to them to begin with. How do you make that happen as far as
Put the printers on their subnets.
Well, in addition to that, you control the trafficking of their print jobs. So they will only go to those machines.
So how do you keep them to only see those 2 printers when they need to attach to one?
I don't know, we did it and it just happened.
Without allowing them to see the other printers? That could possibly be out throughout all the other networks and they select the wrong one.
Your active director.
They're all published in Active Directory. No, I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure. Whenever we tested out the client, we just saw the ones that were on the subject.
Bring it in,
Printed
and
properties.
there's other stuff.
Look at printed properties and set it based off of per subnet for your sites. So if you guys look at that model, it'll tell you.
Okay.
Thank you, we'll be here all week.
I have a question. What would be the most important thing that you could share with the upcoming class on how to do their project and be successful?
Talk with each other.
Communication.
Lock the door before Hi and Kasama come in the room.
Plan it all out first before you ever start putting it together.
And
Yeah, get it all on paper.
Design
first.
the entire network, the entire project, get it all on paper.
Before you
Before
ever
you
touch
start.
a machine, before you ever think about anything, do it all on paper first and submit it, and look at it and make sure you work the bugs out.
And another hint, once you actually start touching the machines, the very first thing you need to check all the hardware.
Yep.
Because you don't want to get halfway through and then find out you've got 3 bad nicks.
Yeah, in
That's
case
what
you
I
haven't-
loves to do.
They don't like to
In
throw away. In case you
away
haven't figured out, like
hardware.
25% of all the nicks in this building are bad, so.
And we did that, we checked all that stuff at the very beginning.
You will get A+ troubleshooting the whole way through.
All right.
And communication is very important. It's important that other people know what you're working on and you know what they're working on.
And not to jump, if you're on one thing, not to jump over something else and just leave that other thing sitting there.
Yeah, Chris.
Not
to mention
The
anything.
most
guys take
important
notes?
thing is planning.
Do you guys take notes as you
And
go along?
to keep
there?
everyone
mental
updated,
notes,
we
yes.
did
Minor
not do
notes,
that.
minor notes.
We actually labeled everything and we're writing notes on paper
On top of it.
on top of each one of the computers.
And then we would meet
So
on a
what
daily
we would do.
basis and talk
Yeah,
about
every day
what
we
we
talk
talked
about how far we've gotten.
Some days even twice a day.
Yeah.
Morning
we
and
have multiple
afternoon.
meetings.
If
But
you
not
guys
enough.
did this by yourself, would you get it done?
It would take a really long
Take a
time, but
couple
sure.
weeks.
Within the time frame that you have in there?
I think we can
A
turn
week,
around
do
and do
you
it
do
again.
all this in a week by yourself?
Is that a challenge?
You mean the 8 of us or each one of us
Each one
individually?
individually. Like, each
Do
one of
the
you guys
entire
did this project
thing.
itself, yourself.
Try it
Could you
next
do it
week.
by yourself in a week?
If you
Me
had asked
personally,
them,
no.
if you had asked
No,
that
I
question
do-
a week ago, absolutely not. Now, maybe.
As long as I have Google.
75,
There's
80%
some
Yeah,
words.
Yeah,
seriously.
come close, but,
I get about 70%.
yeah.
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 Could we call you?
After this?
We can give you Google's website.
Are you saying you want to hire us for the job? I mean,
No, after
sure.
this, it's gonna start costing you money calling me.
What do you mean after this? It's already cost.
That's not going to me though.
In a way it is.
Now it's gonna start going directly to the whole thing.
Well, look at the time, ready for lunch.
The most important thing we learned though is even if we don't know how to put the whole network together ourselves, we know where to go to find the information now. You're not going to know everything, just know where to go to find it.
Which comes back to my
And
question, do you
double
think you can
check.
do it in a week?
Yeah. In a week, maybe. Working 10-hour days.
Not even going to that.
Not even sleeping.
I didn't even see that.
Which is also the answer to any technical questions that you have in an interview. If you don't know the answer,
Right.
sharing where you would go to find that information.
Google.
Google.
Google,
You guys-
Kasama, and Hi.